Ever wonder? Which silver screen titans didn't just pretend to be indestructible, but actually proved it in trench mud, shark black surf, boiler room bar fights, and flaming bomber wreckage? Tonight, we're back with 10 new legends whose real-world scars make CGI look like kindergarten glitter. You'll shake hands with a trench war bruiser who once sparred heavyweight champ Jack Johnson, a soft, smiling character actor who crawled through Omaha Beach gunfire, and a San Quentin boxing king who still slices his own forearms on purpose, then finishes the take. Stick around, because if number 10 rattles your teeth, number 1 might rattle your soul. Ready? Let's dive headfirst into the mayhem. If, after watching, you notice a deserving actor missing from this list, remember this is part 2. You'll find the link to part 1 at the end of the video. Number 10, Oliver Reed, Chaos in Kashmir. Oliver Reed never required special effects. Foley, he was the sound of shattering glass. Born into an upper-crust military family, he rebelled by brawling his way across London pubs, once branding his shoulder with a lit cigarette just to prove he felt nothing. During an infamous 4-day binge, he downed roughly 100 pints of bitter, arm-wrestled 5 rugby players in succession, and still staggered to call time at dawn. Filthy coat. Perfect diction. On the Three Musketeers, he hit a stuntman with such torque that the poor fellow skidded through a dolly track. Reed wiped his knuckles, grinned, and asked for another take. Even death couldn't tame him. He slumped over in a Maltese tavern while filming Gladiator, heart-pumping whiskey and adrenaline, having just beaten a Royal Navy sailor at arm wrestling. When directors sought raw menace, Reed simply pointed at his own bruises. Proof that rage never needed rehearsal. Next up, an ex-Marine who once dragged a paparazzo into midtown traffic by the collar and still treats retirement like a round of overtime. Number 9, Gene Hackman, the Marine who commands silence. 16-year-old Eugene Hackman forged his mother's signature and shipped off to the Far East with the U.S. Marines. Radio strapped to his back, fists cocked for Shanghai riot duty. Bunkmates recall him knocking out a drunken corporal with a single straight right after the man hurled a slur. No charges filed, lesson learned. Post-service, Hackman hauled furniture, dug trenches, and pumped iron in roadside gyms until acting found him, though the fury never left. At Pasadena Playhouse, fellow students heckled the too old, too mean newcomer. Hackman vowed he'd outlast them, and did. Decades later, he spotted the ringleader pumping gas, slipped him front-row tickets, and smirked. On Mississippi Burning, he detonated for an emotional scene by headbutting a plaster wall. Bits of drywall snowed onto crew, and the take stayed in the final cut. Now in his 90s, Hackman still breaks up cattle fights on his New Mexico ranch. No firearm, just that gravel pit glare. He doesn't talk toughness, he enforces it. If Hackman rules with latent fire, our next entry mastered ice-cold zen, shattering bones one heartbeat, meditating through agony the next. Number 8, James Coburn, elegance made of steel. James Coburn wore a wolfish grin that masked high-carbon alloy. A loyal disciple of Bruce Lee, he drilled Jeet Kune Do until skin split between his knuckles. Lee dubbed him my most disciplined Western student. When a director staged a barroom slugfest in Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, Coburn's hook cracked a co-star's rib for real, and with the camera rolling, he simply shifted the wounded actor's weight so the scene could finish before first aid arrived. Offset, Coburn blitzed Baja sand and desert rally buggies, flipping at 70 miles per hour and emerging with vertebrae bruised, grin intact. Then rheumatoid arthritis turned his joints into molten glass. Refusing opioids, he electroshock needled his elbows and wrists, meditated through the surge, and lifted a Colt single action again for Young Guns 2. Pain never conquered him. It became a tuning fork, striking perfect resonance between zen and violence. Speed up that tuning fork, remove the zen, and you arrive at a whirlwind whose 2-finger push-ups bent physics itself. Number 7, Bruce Lee, lightning trapped in human skin. Wake at 5 for Wing Chun drills. Pound heavy bag till noon, fence for footwork at dusk. That was Bruce Lee's warm-up. His one-inch punch catapulted 180-pound sparring partners. Two-finger push-ups were a parlor trick. When a San Francisco grandmaster accused him of betraying tradition, Lee fought him behind closed doors and settled the matter in under 60 seconds. Then rebuilt his style because, he said, it took too long. Hollywood's reluctance to headline an Asian hero enraged him. So he decamped to Hong Kong, filmed The Big Boss, and returned the hottest global star alive. During Enter the Dragon, he shattered a stuntman's rib and apologized by teaching the man how to tighten chi breath. Doctors warned a spinal injury might paralyze him. Lee strapped traction weights to his chin, read philosophy while suspended, and shot higher side kicks than before. His speed blurred celluloid. His will rewrote martial arts history. From lightning, we drop into thunder, specifically prison cell blocks, echoing with uppercuts that forged Hollywood's most fearsome fixer. Number 6, Danny Trejo, San Quentin Thunder. Before movie lights found him, Danny Trejo's world glowed fluorescent and cold. Juvenile halls led to Soledad, then San Quentin, where he boxed both lightweight and welterweight divisions and collected scars that no makeup kit could replicate. He beat heroin by mentoring younger inmates, preaching sobriety at knife point if necessary. A fluke visit to the runaway train set, he was hired as an addiction counselor for a crew member, became an acting career when the director saw his ravaged cheekbones and said, "That face is the movie." Trejo has refused doubles since day one. On Machete, he smashed through sugar glass mirrors until his forearms bled, wrapped them in duct tape, and finished 3 more angles. Between gigs, he tours juvenile prisons, rolling up tattooed sleeves so kids can count the knife wounds and decide whether drama is more glamorous in real life or reels. Trejo doesn't fake menace. He loaned Hollywood the real thing. Yet, even Trejo tips his battered fedora to a laconic cowboy who once swam 3 miles through shark water and never told casting directors a word about it. Number 5, Clint Eastwood, the man who swam from the sky. 1951. A Navy bomber lost power over the Pacific. Trainee Clint Eastwood hurled himself into 40-degree surf. Inflation raft half-filled, he paddled toward a ghost-gray coastline for 3 hypothermic miles, sharks slicing water beneath. Asked later if he'd been scared, Eastwood drawled, "I just focused on the horizon." That understatement defines him. On High Plains Drifter, he insisted on breaking an untrained stallion because stunt doubles look like stunt doubles. Producers balked at unforgiven costs. Eastwood spun a prop Schofield revolver and murmured that if budgets dropped, schedules would stretch. On his weekends, nothing dropped. At 94, he still directs 14-hour days, black coffee in hand, refusing chairs so younger crew won't slack. When a reporter asked whether he feared death, Eastwood squinted into sun, shrugged, and said, "We'll stare each other down when it's time." Death once stared down a bomber cadet named Jack Palance and blinked first. If you're loving the deep dive details, hit subscribe now. It takes days of research, fact-checking, and late-night edits to bring these stories to life. And that one click is the fuel that lets us keep digging up the next legend. Moving on. Number 4, Jack Palance. Burned, bruised, unbroken. Arizona Desert, 1943. A B-24 engine flashed orange. Cadet Jack Palance bailed at 1,000 feet, chute snapping open moments, before sand carved his face into that iconic chiseled menace. Prior to war, he'd boxed 15 pro bouts, 11 knockouts, under the name Jack Brazo. Hollywood turned the scars into currency. During Shane, dissatisfied with rear projection safety, Palance dangled from a Wyoming bluff by his fingertips because real height felt honest. Off camera, he lifted dumbbells fashioned from railroad wheels and recited Ukrainian folk poetry between sets. When skeptics suggested age had softened him, 73-year-old Palance accepted his Oscar by dropping to the stage and banging out one-arm push-ups, each rep a cannon shot across the bow of complacency. Pain visited often. Palance greeted it like an old sparring partner and kept swinging. Swinging, however, was child's play for the smiling sledgehammer who once cleaved open a ship's bulkhead to save 2 drowning sailors. Number 3. Ernest Borgnine, the Smiling Hammer. Ernest Borgnine enlisted in 1935 and stayed a full decade, serving aboard destroyers that rolled so hard depth charges slid across deck like iron dominoes. Off Leyte Gulf, a typhoon burst a hatch, trapping 2 sailors. Borgnine sank a firefighting axe into the steel seam, ripped the door wide, and lugged the men clear, shoulders straining like shipyard cranes. Hollywood misread the grin as gentleness until a mouthy grip insulted a wardrobe assistant and woke up blinking at ceiling rigging. Borgnine filmed the Poseidon Adventure with a hidden ankle fracture, limping through flooded corridors because company moves cost jobs. Children adored him, bartenders feared him, and co-stars trusted him with fight scenes because his control was ironclad. He could stun without shattering, unless you deserved shattering. Our runner-up carried shrapnel in every step, danced through it on Broadway, and kept the worst memories locked so deep his eyes alone hinted at the weight. Number 2. Charles Durning, the Reluctant War Machine. D-Day, Dog Green Sector. 20-year-old Private Charles Durning splashed into chest-high surf under mortar airbursts. A bullet tore his hip, another pierced his chest, a third nicked his thigh, yet he dragged 2 wounded men behind a steel beam and bayoneted a German soldier in close quarters before blacking out. Later captured in the Ardennes, he escaped a POW cage by throttling a guard and sprinting through snow for 3 nights. Surgeons pulled shrapnel from his body for weeks. Fragments stayed, aching through every tap number when he returned to Broadway. On Dog Day afternoon, Durning ad-libbed his war vet monologue until crew wept, then apologized for getting carried away. He rarely spoke of the war because the pictures were too vivid, but when he did, listeners understood why his eyes sometimes drifted to horizons invisible to everyone else. All those horizons meet at a single thunderclap name: a trench fighter, prize fighter, an unstoppable force of nature who lands at the summit of tonight's list. Number 1, Victor McLaglin, the brawler who dodged bayonets. 14 years old, craving adventure, Victor McLaglin lied about his age and joined a cavalry unit bound for the Boer War. Years later, he slugged through World War I trenches with the Royal Irish Fusiliers, once catching a bayonet slash across his ribs and sending its owner to the mud with a rifle butt uppercut. War done, he swapped bayonet for boxing gloves, stacking 16 professional fights, including a bruising draw against heavyweight legend Jack Johnson. Hollywood discovered him in a Canadian carnival ring, fists taped, nose flattened from the night before. On The Quiet Man, he and John Wayne punched past, cut, and kept going until locals swore thunder rolled across County Mayo. At 61, he hoisted Maureen O'Hara over his shoulder, waded a churning Irish river 12 straight takes, and laughed as crew begged a break. McLaglin didn't feign ferocity. He distilled decades of battle into every glare, every haymaker, every gravel-voiced laugh. If toughness is measured by wars fought, ribs broken, and legends born in bar smoke, Victor McLaglin is the gold standard. And tonight, he stands alone at number 1. 10 names, 10 gauntlets, barbed wire, shark fins, riot sticks, and 1-inch punches. None of these men rented grit. They lived it, then splashed genuine peril across the silver screen. So, next time a digital hero flips off a skyscraper unscathed, remember Victor's bayonet scar, Durning's bullet trio, Borgnine's typhoon rescue, and Bruce's 2-finger push-up, because real toughness limps, sweats, bleeds, and still shouts, "Action!" one more time. If their stories sucker-punched your expectations, slam, like, so the algorithm salutes authentic courage, and subscribe for next week's quest into Hollywood's most cursed film shoots. Which warrior impressed you most? Who deserves a spot in Part 3? Drop your picks below. Until then, stay relentless. And remember, the bravest act isn't on a soundstage. It's showing up for the next round when the world says you're finished.